Now we are in the chapter, the boundaries of the ignorance. Where exactly does the total knowledge start? Okay, I have already told you that's in the supermind. Even in the overmind consciousness, which is a very, very, very high level, which Sri attained in 1926, even that is the ignorance is starting there. And what is meant by ignorance? The multiplicity, the various forms. Oneness is there, but it is subordinate to the multiplicity. The many are more prominent than the one. So he has already examined the subconscious, and he has told us that subconscious is not a correct nomenclature because there is a consciousness which is sleeping. It's not subconscious. There is less consciousness. Then the inconscient is also, even the inconscient contains consciousness, but in a very, very somnolent condition, sleeping condition. Then he has come to the subliminal, and subliminal is the intraconscious, which goes horizontally deep inside your heart region. Then finally he will go to the superconscious, which is above the head. Okay. So now he is saying here that the subconscious, the subliminal is not at all unconscious. It is very, very conscious. It is 10 times surface nature of body, life, and mind. So now I read each sentence. He has got something more to say about the subliminal. But the subliminal self has not at all this subconscious character. It's full of consciousness. Okay? It is in full possession of a mind, a life force, a clear, subtle physical sense of things. Because the interconscient or the subliminal has got the inner mind. You have a mind which is locked in the skull of your head. Okay, in the skull. That's a physical brain, and the physical brain is very developed in relation to the animal, but still it's only physical. It does not allow you spiritual knowledge so easily. So if you want spiritual knowledge, you have to leave your mind and go above or into your interconscious. And interconscious, there is inner mind, which is much more subtle, and it can understand things which are very subtle also, not like the physical brain. Then there is the inner vital. The vital also is inner, and that is much, much purer than our ordinary vital. Ordinary vital is full of desires, full of likes and dislikes, hates, okay, jealousies, all these lower type of things are there in the vital. But in the inner vital, it's much, much clearer. Okay? And you are also conscious there of the various forces in the universe. Because vital is prana, and there is a universal plane. Become conscious of all those forces which are there in the universal prana. Okay, so that's what he's saying. You are in full possession of a mind, a life force which is vital, and a clear, subtle physical sense of things. Even subtle physical things you will have to see. Okay, it has the same capacities as our waking mind, waking being. Okay, a subtle sense and perception. You're not, when you are in the interconscious, you're not using your gross senses. You're not using your eyes, ears, nose, nor are you, the skin also gives you the sense of contact. So all these things you're not using. Okay? You are using subtle senses. Because, and what is subtle sense? Just to remind you, when you are dreaming, you are seeing and hearing. But you are not using your eyes and your ears. You are using your subtle senses. So that is the subtle sense. Subtle drishti and subtle shruti, hearing. So it has the same capacities as our waking being, a subtle sense and perception, a comprehensive, extended. So our memory is very, very limited. Even the past, we don't remember everything. But in the intraconscious, you have an extended memory. In other words, you can even remember what happened to you in childhood and even in the previous life. It is extended into the past and extended into the future also. Okay. and an intensive selective intelligence. Intense selective intelligence, will, self-consciousness, all these things, your capacity increase when you go into the intraconscious. And you can go into the intraconscious with samadhi or without samadhi also. Okay? You can be fully aware of the physical world, and yet your consciousness can be there in the intraconscious. So, intense selective intelligence, will, self-consciousness. But even though the same in kind, they are wider, more developed, more sovereign. Now, the word sovereign is very interesting. Sovereign means independent, not dependent on anything. Okay? Just like India under the British was not sovereign nation at all. After the British left, India has become a sovereign nation. When the British were there, we were dependent on the British. But now we are a sovereign nation. So in other words, what does it mean? It means that the inner mind doesn't depend upon the physical brain. It doesn't. It is independent. It works by itself. That's what it means. So it is much wider, more developed, and more sovereign. And it has other capacities which exceed those of our mortal mind because of a power of direct awareness of the being. So, direct awareness of the being, okay, the second degree of knowledge. If you remember, the 4 degrees of knowledge, or to make it simple, let us say 3 degrees. The first degree is identification. You become what you want to know. Okay? Then there is no question of any knowledge, because you yourself are what you need to know. So knowledge disappears. The knower and the to be known object become one. Okay, that is the power of identification. But the second is this: what he's talking about now, power of direct awareness of the being. I can see other people's thoughts, which I can't do it normally, and I can see also their emotions. That is the second degree of knowledge, direct but separated. Okay, so that's what he's saying. In the interconscious, that becomes possible. Whether acting in itself or turned upon its object. I'll give a little more instance of power of direct awareness of the being. It's very interesting. Okay. For instance, we can't see the blood flowing in the veins. With our normal eyes, we can't. But if you are in the intraconscious, it becomes possible to see subtle things. And you can even see the blood flowing in the veins. Okay. You can see electricity flowing in the wire. I'm telling you this, I'm not making it up. There was Bob Lawler, who works in archives. Okay. He had once taken drugs and he had a good experience, fortunately. Okay. And he was able to see all these things. He was able to see the electricity flowing in the, in the wire. So that's the power of the direct awareness of the being. Okay. He could see the blood also flowing in the veins. Then you don't need X-ray machines. So, okay, then whether acting in itself or turned upon its object, which arrives both knowledge. So this power in the intraconscious, you can look into yourself. That also is very interesting. There's a very interesting case in America. Okay, it was in the Arizona state, and the name of the person is Casey, Edgar Casey. He was an illiterate farmer and he had a problem. I think I told you the story. Anyway, I won't go more into detail because that will distract us now. But Edgar Casey was able to go into his intraconscious and know his own problem, which the doctors could not diagnose. And he was able to tell them that this is the problem, and he got cured. Then the doctor got the idea that I can use him also for other people. Why only those cases which we can't solve? We'll get Edgar Casey to come and look into their intraconscious. If he goes into his intraconscious, because intraconscious is universal. So my intraconscious is the same as everybody else's. So there I will be able to see and solve the problem. And that's what he did. He has got about 3,000 readings. Okay. And many of them came true afterwards. Okay. So this is the intraconscious, the power of direct awareness. Whether acting in itself or turned upon its object. That's why I gave you the idea. Acting in itself means I can look into myself and see what my problems are. I may think that I am not an angry person, but actually anger is there all the time lurking in the background. So that I can make out easily. Or I may feel that I am a very generous person, but there will be a streak of miserliness in me. When I am in the intraconscious, I will be able to catch that. Normally we fool ourselves when we are in the outer nature. But if you are going to the intraconscious, honesty becomes an absolute necessity. You can't deceive yourself. Okay? So whether acting in itself, that means I look into myself, or turned upon its object, I look into other people. Okay? Which arrives more swiftly at knowledge, more swiftly at effectivity of will. There you are, even will increases. Okay? Very often when we want to do something, our laziness doesn't allow us. So the will is not very effective. But if your consciousness is in the intraconscious, will becomes much more active and much more successful, more deeply at understanding and satisfaction of impulse. So all these things become possible in the interconscious. Our surface mind is hardly a true mentality. So involved, bound, hampered, conditioned is it by the body and the bodily life and the limitations of the nerve system and the physical organs. But the subliminal self has a true mentality superior to these limitations. Just now we discussed now, the ordinary mind of man, it depends on the brain. Brain is body. Okay? Brain is material. So you can't do much. But if the capacity of thinking comes out of the brain, then it is not conditioned, it becomes sovereign. It doesn't depend on the brain. So that's what he's saying. It is conditioned, is it, by the body and bodily life and the limitations of the nerve system and the physical organs. But the subliminal self has a true mentality superior to these limitations. It exceeds the physical mind and physical organs, although it is aware of them and their works, and is indeed in a large degree their cause and creator. So there you are. That's the origin. The origin of our mentality, our vitality, and our physicality is all there in the interconscious. That's the root. From there it is coming out. So all that we are to become in the future is there waiting in the interconscious. Okay? Also above, but now we are talking about the interconscious. Then the subliminal self has a true mentality superior to these limitations. It exceeds the physical mind and physical organs, although it is aware of them and their works, and is indeed in a large degree their cause or creator. It is only subconscious in the sense of not bringing all or most of itself to the surface. So when we say the interconscious is not conscious, we are not conscious of the interconscious, but it is there. And if you go there, you become 10 times more conscious. So it is subconscious in this sense of not bringing all or most of itself to the surface. The surface is very hard and very thick, full of veils. And so the interconscious cannot come out and express itself very clearly in the outer nature. It works always behind the veil. It is rather a secret intraconscious and circumconscious than a subconscious. The intraconscious is using the word very clearly now. He is saying subliminal is also the intraconscious and the circumconscious. Even around yourself, there is an aura which is normally only about 1 or 2 centimeters. Okay? And when you are very active, it increases a little bit. Every living creature, every living object has got an aura. Even the leaves, when they are on the tree, there's an aura which can be even photographed. Okay? And if you pluck the leaf and put it on the table, after 2 hours, the aura disappears because it is not living anymore. Yes. Circumconscious, all around you, around the body, there's a circumconscious. Subconscious can be also quite large. In the case of the mother, it was large enough to save her from the tram which was coming. There is a story the mother told us that she was walking in a very absent-minded manner, or not absent-minded. She was very concentrated and she was fully plunged into herself. And she was walking in the park and the tram knocked into it. But her aura actually threw her back and she was saved. And the tram conductor was shouting and cursing her. What are you doing? But she got saved. Okay. The aura saves you. If you can become conscious of your aura, you can even stop the forces coming into it. Even illnesses come through the aura. So if you become conscious of your aura, you can actually throw them out before they enter. If you become conscious. So it is only that we read. Okay, so the secret interconscious and circumconscious than a subconscious. For it envelops quite as much as it supports the outer nature. Note the word envelops. It's all around, like a circular. It completely surrounds you. This description is no doubt truest of the deeper parts of the subliminal. In other layers of it, nearer to our surface, there is more ignorant action, and those who, penetrating within, pause in the zones of lesser coherence or in the no man's land between the subliminal and the surface, may fall into much delusion and confusion. But that too, though ignorant, is not of the nature of the subconscious. The confusion of these intermediate zones has no kinship to the inconscious. That last bit we discussed yesterday, and I repeat that there were cases where the intraconscious also has got layers. Okay? If you go immediately, when you're sleeping, you may go into your intraconscious, but it's very shallow. It's not very deep. But the true intraconscious is very deep. In fact, the psychic being is even at the last end of the intraconscious. You have to go far into yourself, beyond the inner mind, inner vital and inner physical, and then only you will reach the psychic being. Mother has described in some place how it is. It's like going deep into a dark tunnel. And then when you come out at the end, there is the psychic being. So what Sylvia is warning here is saying that between the deep intraconscious and the shallow inconscious, there is a no man's land. And he's calling it a zone of lesser coherence because you can get confused. And that's what happened to two people. Okay, I mentioned yesterday, if you remember. One was Tirupati. He was from Vijayawada and he entered into this region and he was confused. He thought that he had got so much power that he need not eat or sleep. But then, in spite of those repeated warnings, he didn't listen and he stopped eating and stopped sleeping. He lost his mind and he had to be centered. So, the confusion of these intermediate zones, okay, it is there, no kinship with the inconscious. Inconscious, totally unconsciousness. So, there are other cases there also whom mother saved. This Tirupati case was not saved, but the other man who was also, as I told you, he was a swimming guard. Okay? When he used to go for swimming in the sea, he was a lifeguard. Okay? So he also entered and he has a lot of experiences and he told mother about it, but mother knew that it's the intermediate zone and not the real intraconscious, and she stopped it to save it. But he complained. He didn't know that he is actually being saved. Okay, I told you this yesterday. Okay, now that completes the paragraph that we had to read. So now we can read the next paragraph, 581. We might say then. So, one of you has to read.
I'm reading, Venkata.
Okay, Shilpa, go ahead.
We might.
Archana.
Yeah. Oh, acha, okay. Right.
We might say then that there are three elements in the totality of our being: There is the submental and the subconscient, which appears to us as if it were inconscient, comprising the material basis and a good part of our life and body. There is the subliminal, which comprises the inner being, taken in its entirety of inner mind, inner life, inner physical, with the soul or psychic entity supporting them. There is this waking consciousness, which the subliminal and the subconscient throw up on the surface, a wave of the secret search. But even this is not an adequate account of what we are. For there is not only something deep within, behind our normal self awareness, but something also high above it. That too is ourselves, other than our surface mental personality, but not outside our true self. That too is a country of our spirit. For the subliminal proper is no more than the inner being on the level of the knowledge ignorance, luminous, powerful, and extended indeed beyond the pure conception of our waking mind, but still not the supreme or the whole sense of our being, not its ultimate mystery. We become aware in a certain experience of a range of beings superconstant to all these three, aware too of something, a supreme highest reality sustaining and exceeding them all, which humanity speaks of vaguely as spirit or the oversoul. From these superconscient ranges, we have visitations, and in our highest being, we tend towards them and to that supreme spirit. There is then, in our total range of existence, a superconscious as well as a subconscious and inconscious, overarching and perhaps enveloping our subliminal and our waking selves, but unknown to us, seemingly unattainable and incommunicable.
Yeah. So now he has given you the whole picture. There is something, you are only a small grain of salt in a salty sea. Okay, so you can take this image, and there is the sea below you, the sea is around you, and the sea is also above you if you are plunged into the sea. So, or I prefer the other image of the house. If you think of yourself as a house, there is a cellar which is a subconscious. There is a foundation which is even deeper, and that's the inconscient. It's the support of the whole structure. Then there is the inner. You go into your inner garden, okay, the kitchen garden at the back which is open to the sky, that's your intraconscious or the subliminal. And there is something on top. Okay. You have the power to build your first floor, second floor, third floor. So this is when there is a superconscious. You have to build them. You have the right because it's your property, but you have to build them. How do you build them? Yogic processes. And build them. So when you go into the superconscious, you feel something totally different from your normal consciousness. And that's the reason why you have the idea of, oh, I'm approaching something extraordinary, spirit, God, oversoul. But that feeling may not be there in the intraconscious. You are much sharper in your perceptions and your hearing and your seeing. And that's why clairvoyants and clairaudiences, those who can hear and those who can see such things, are not necessarily spiritual. We have these crystal gazers who will tell you your future, who will also tell you your past. But there's nothing much spiritual about it. It's a great capacity, but it's not. Now they are saying that this, if you go up, then you feel that you are going nearer to God. Your power increases, your knowledge increases. So now today we also do the same thing as 24. I will read out the summary to get the basic picture, and then we'll see whether we can go through the sentence by sentence. I think we can do it. We have about 15 minutes. So I'm reading out the summary first of what he's saying in this paragraph. In a gist, we get what he's saying. We could say that there are three totalities of our being. Number one, the subconscious, which looks like the inconscient to us. Number two, the subliminal, which consists of the inner mind, inner vital, and the inner physical, and the psychic being, which supports all this from behind. Deeper, at the outer surface, we have our mind, life, and body, We have mind, vital, and body. And the inner, inside, the inner mind, the inner vital, and the inner physical. And deep inside is the psychic being supporting all this structure. Okay? Then the third one, the normal external, superficial nature of body, life, and mind. But this too is incomplete. It is above our outer nature. This is the superconscious, which is the highest reality and which exceeds all but sustains all. It is the basis. You are going up, but actually that's a root. Okay. So in the Gita, you have the image of the Urdhva Mulo Adha Shakha. The roots are above and the branches are below. In the Gita also you have that, and also in the Upanishad also you have the same thing. Esho Ashwatha Sanatana is the eternal tree. The roots are above and so when you go up, you are going nearer and nearer to your origin. So you get the feeling that you are nearing to God, something great. Okay. We have then, summary within summary, a subconscious, an intraconscious, and a superconscious, overarching and enveloping the outer being. This totality is unknown to us, and it seems to be even unattainable and incommunicable. This is what he's saying in this paragraph. Okay? So as I said, you are like the grain of salt in the sea. But you have got that form of the, there is the whole sea is there and you are part of it, but you don't know that you are part of it. Your body is matter, your vital is universal prana, your mind is universal plane of mind, okay, mentality. So this is what he's saying. So now, this time, we'll go through each sentence and see whether we agree. Beginning from, but the subliminal self. Is that right? Just one second. Yeah. No, that should be just now. One second. No, we have to read from, we might say that. We have the gist now, so it should be quite plain sailing. Okay, so we'll see. We might say then, okay, that there are three elements in the totality of our being. There is the submental and the subconscious, which appears to us. Now, look carefully, Surendra used the word submental, because he told you that the subconscious is not a very good word, because you may feel, but there is a consciousness which is submental, okay, and the subconscious, which appears to us as if it were inconscient, comprising the material basis and a good part of our life and body. Okay? That's the subconscious. There is the subliminal, second one, which comprises the inner being, taken in its entirety of inner mind, inner life, inner physical. The inner mind is at the mental level, horizontally going into yourself. Inner life, a little lower level, going into yourself from the vital level, which is below the mind. Then you have the physical, which is the lowest level, and it goes into it, and you have the subtle physical or the inner physical. And with the soul or psychic entire entity supporting them. If the psychic is not there, then all these things are not possible to get. That's what happens with the animal. It can never go into an intraconscious because there isn't any. Okay. The psychic being is a developed soul. The soul may be there in the animal, but it's not developed into a psychic being yet. Okay. There is this waking consciousness which the subliminal and the subconscious throw up on the surface, a wave of the secret surge. So this is like the waves. Okay. The sea develops the swell first, and then it comes and becomes a wave, the foam and froth. That is what your body mind life is, nothing else. Okay. So foam and froth. This is like a wave of the secret soul. But even this is not an adequate account of what we are. For there is not only something deep within, behind our normal self-awareness, but something also high above it. That too is ourselves, other than our surface mental personality, but not outside our true self. It is other than our surface mental personality, but not outside our true self. Not the word personality with a lowercase p, he means the body, mind, life. The surface mental personality is the body, mind, and life normally. Okay, but here he is talking about the surface mental personality, but not outside our true self. The true self is ocean. You are the ocean, but the small grain of salt which you think you are is not. It is in the ocean, but doesn't know the ocean. That too is a country atmosphere. That too is part of ourselves. But the subliminal proper is no more than the inner being on the level of the knowledge ignorance. Okay? So the subliminal, there is ignorance and there is knowledge. Knowledge is maybe 80 to 90%, and there is ignorance 10%. There is. You can go wrong. Okay? Luminous, powerful, and extended, indeed, beyond the poor conception of our waking mind. So, the waking mind is very, very ignorant. Even the most intelligent man is only limited by his ignorance. So, this is what Sandhya is saying. That is the country also. Subliminal proper is no more than the inner being on the level of the knowledge ignorance. It is luminous, powerful, and extended. Indeed, of course, it is extended beyond the poor conception of our waking, but still not the supreme or the whole sense of our being, nor its ultimate mystery. You cannot solve the mystery of the physical world. What is all this about? From where did the universe start? Who am I? All these things you cannot know in the interconscious. That's what I mean by not spiritual. Okay? You may have access to all these things. There are many people who have access to the interconscious, the subliminal. Clairvoyance and clairaudience and all these people are, it's not at all uncommon. Now with the internet, it becomes possible to know who is experiencing what, because immediately their experiences are put on the internet and you come to know. I was just told the other day that there is a fellow called Ingo Swann. Okay. INGOSWANN. And I'm going to look into it, and he has also got this capacity of interconscious. He can see many things that we can't. Okay? But you can't know the ultimate mystery. Ultimate mystery, you have to go up. You have to get spiritual knowledge, not interconscious knowledge. We become aware in a certain sense, in a certain experience, of a range of being superconscious to all these three, aware too of something, a supreme highest reality, sustaining and exceeding them all. Okay. So then you start getting spiritual knowledge, which humanity speaks of vaguely as spirit, God, oversoul. From these superconscious ranges, we have visitations, and in our highest being, we tend towards them and to that supreme spirit. Now, what does he mean by visitations? In the spiritual planes of consciousness, there are beings who dwell. Okay? There are beings who dwell below also, but there are beings who dwell also above. Okay? Below, for instance, in the vital world, we have elves and gnomes, small, small creatures who are permanent. They are immortal, but they are full of fun and mischief also sometimes in the vital world. But in the higher worlds, you have the Gandharvas, you have the Kinnaras, angels, and all these beings who are there. Okay, they can come down and influence you. Meaning by the visitations. We all know the stories of the Apsaras who come down and disturb the sadhana of rishis. Okay, that we know. But they are real. Don't think that they are not real. These beings are all there and they visit you. They can come down and influence your life. Okay? That's very simple. This is what you mean by visitations. So, in the Life Divine, very, very early chapters, he has described how these beings, they are worlds where people live, and these are, as I said, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, all these. Okay. For instance, take the Kubera is a lot of wealth. Okay. But he's got many assistants. Okay. Even Yama, okay, the king of the impermanence in the physical world. I'm not using the word death, I'm using the word impermanence in the physical world. The Yama, he is the one who controls all laws. Yam is to control. Yama is the one who controls all the laws, keeps them in action. So he also has got messengers, he also has got assistants, and they come down actually to take the person who has gone. So these are what's meaning by meditations. In our highest being, we tend towards them and to that supreme. In the highest being, that means yourself. That is aspiring for the divine, not your ordinary body-mind life. But if your body-mind life is aspiring for the divine, wow, then your spiritual life has already started. There is then, in our total range of existence, a superconscious as well as a subconscious and an inconscious, overarching and perhaps enveloping our subliminal and our waking selves, but unknown to us, seemingly unattainable and incommunicable. So, you are, as I said, like the grain of salt, and the sea is all around, above you, around you, below you, and you don't even know that. That's all. So, we have only 3 minutes left, so we can stop here today. But with the extent of our knowledge we discover, this is what we read next time. Okay. Suki is not there today, so I will put it out. Next we have to do. We have to read, but page 581. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you, Randapur.